I am presenting Union Gospel Press's Sunday School Lesson number 12, Sunday, November 23rd, 2025. The lesson is entitled, Jesus Cast Out Legion. Lesson text comes from Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 20. Related scriptures are Matthew 8, 28 through 34, Mark 3, 22 through 27, Luke 4, 16 through 21, 5, 1 through 8, 8:26 through 39. The place is territory of Gadara. The time is between 26 and 30 AD. Spiritual warfare can be a difficult subject to teach on. Using events from the life of Christ can help learners empathize with those oppressed by the devil. This account shows a life completely changed by the power of Christ. Today's aim, facts. To observe Jesus' power over demons. Principle, to realize the Lord has authority over the supernatural. Application, to live knowing that Jesus can set us free from all evil. Illustrating the lesson. All who trust in Jesus have been set free. They are no longer slaves to sin, and death is not a threat to them anymore. Practical points. 1. Jesus can help those who are otherwise hopeless. Mark 5, 1 through 5. 2. Remember that demons are real and affect the world. Verses 6 through 9. 3. People are more important than animals or financial considerations. Verses 10 through 13. 4. Sometimes when people see the power of God, they reject him. If we share the gospel and someone does not listen, that does not necessarily mean we have done something wrong. Verses 14 through 17. 5. Jesus does not always call us to what we would like to do. Verses 18 through 19. 6. Jesus calls us to share what he has done with our friends and family. Verses 18 through 20. Golden text. Howbeit, Jesus suffered him not, but saith unto him, Go home to thy friends, and tell them how great things the Lord have done for thee, and have had compassion on thee. Mark 5:19. Today we have 3 lesson outlines. The first is the setting, Mark 5, 1 through 5. The second is the conflict, Mark 5, 6 through 13. And the third is the fallout, Mark 5, 14 through 20. Introduction. This week's lesson picks up right where last week's left off. Having demonstrated his power over creation by calming a storm in Mark 4, Jesus was next confronted by a violent, demon-possessed man. This man was not merely possessed by a single demon, but rather by an intimidating legion. Would such an intimidating adversary be able to resist Jesus? The text does not even entertain the idea. Jesus easily overcame them by simply ordering them out. By easily casting out the legion of demons, Jesus demonstrated that he rules over not only the natural, but also the supernatural. No matter whether our problems today are natural or supernatural, Jesus can take care of us as well. His power is unmatched, and he uses it both to protect his followers from danger, 4:35 through 41, and to save spiritually oppressed people, 5, 1 through 20. No matter the person and no matter the circumstances, Jesus is able to deliver anyone. The setting, Mark 5, 1. And they came over unto the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes, verse 2. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, verse 3, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains. Verse 4. Because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces, neither could any man tame him. Verse 5. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. Meeting the demonic, Mark 5, 1 through 2. There is no conflict between the various gospel accounts of this miracle happening in the land of the Gerasenes or the land of the Gadarenes. Both phrases refer to the same Gentile area. This story took place in the small town of Gerasa by the sea. The town was in the general region associated with Gadara, the larger city that the whole region would have been associated with. This might be comparable to telling someone living in another state, I'm coming from Cleveland, but telling someone local that you are from Middleburg Heights, a suburb only someone from Ohio would recognize. In neither case are you being deceptive, you are just more specific for the person who knows the area. Description of the demonic, Mark 5, 3 through 5. The demon-possessed man was miserable and constantly abused by unclean spirits. He cut himself, verse 5, and lived in a graveyard, which would have rendered him ceremonially unclean. It also would have provided him little shelter, and he was undoubtedly exposed to the elements. He was an outcast from society and isolated from everyone but the demons who tormented him. It was a miserable experience physically, emotionally, and spiritually. The term unclean spirit used in the passage is synonymous with devil, verse 16. We should not waste time trying to draw nuanced distinctions between unclean spirits and devils, given that the book of Mark uses both terms interchangeably, verses 2 and 12. Day and night the man cried out among the tombs. That does not mean that he never slept, but rather that the unclean spirits would afflict him at any time of day. The afflicted man could not be restrained. He had unnatural strength. He was able to break chains. Demons can confer supernatural strength. Society could not tame him. The wording of the Greek text in verse 3 might simply imply that at one time he could be bound, but now he no longer could because he was getting worse. Either way, he was able to break chains with demonic fury, and there was nothing anyone could do. As far as anyone could tell, he was beyond help. The conflict, verse 6. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him, verse 7, and cried with a loud voice and said, What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adore thee by God, that thou torment me not, verse 8. For he said unto him, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit, verse 9. And he asked him, What is thy name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. Verse 10. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Verse 11. Now there was there nigh unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding. Verse 12. And all the devils besought him, saying, Send us into the swine, that we may enter into them. Verse 13. And forthwith Jesus gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000 and choked in the sea. Demons, Mark 5, 6 through 9. Seeing Jesus from afar, the man ran toward him. Once the man got closer, the demons recognized who Jesus was. This is a sharp contrast to the disciples who wondered about Jesus' identity in the preceding chapter. That was not the only time that demons recognized Jesus, 1:21 through 28. Although many people failed to recognize who Jesus was, demons immediately recognized him and knew that he had power over them. Despite knowing about Jesus, they remained his enemies. Knowing about Jesus is not enough. The man ran up to Jesus, worshiped him, and begged Jesus not to torment him. His simultaneous attraction to and repulsion from Jesus is striking. It is difficult to tell how much this man was in control of his actions and how much the demons were. Usually, Jesus is recorded as simply casting demons out rather than talking to them at length. This story is not meant to be a template for modern-day exorcisms, as some Christians seem to assume when they ask demons to name themselves. This story is an exception, not a rule. The scope of this exorcism was greater than any other recorded in the Gospels. Jesus cast 7 demons out of Mary Magdalene, Luke 8:2, but not this many. Matthew 12:43 through 45 shows that it is worse to be inhabited by many evil spirits than just by one. We do not know how many demons this man had. The size of a Roman legion at the time was roughly 6,000 men, if both infantry and cavalry were counted. However, demons are liars, and even if Jesus compelled them to speak truthfully, they only declared that they were many, not that they were many the exact count of a Roman legion. The exact count is not the point. The fact that they could drive the herd of pigs down into the sea does seem to indicate that it was a large number, however. Their vast numbers highlight the tremendous power of Jesus in easily overcoming a legion of demons. When the demons encountered Jesus, they knew multiple things. First, they knew his identity. Second, they knew that he had power over them, so they appealed to him not to torment them. Third, they knew that he would one day judge them. Matthew recorded that they begged not to be tormented before the time, and Luke added that they begged not to be cast into the abyss. Matthew 8:29, Luke 8:31. Demons know they are doomed and have a limited time before they are finally judged. Revelations 12:12. Demons are powerful, but they are powerless before God. Jesus has infinitely more power than a legion of demons who were immediately reduced to groveling. That dramatically highlighted Jesus' power. Not only does he have total power over creation, as demonstrated by calming the storm, but he also has power over the supernatural. Pigs, Mark 5:10 through 13. The demons begged to be sent into the pigs. Surprisingly, Jesus granted their request, and the pigs rushed into the sea and drowned. What was the demons' motivation, and why did Jesus grant them their requests? Sincere Christians have proposed a variety of explanations. Since the gospel writers do not clearly provide the answer, we will survey some of the explanations without picking one. We should study the passage and try to come to a correct understanding of it and be charitable toward others who come to a different understanding. It is possible that demons were trying to stir up trouble for Jesus and hoped their actions would result in him being asked to leave the region. Killing 2,000 pigs could cause serious problems for the local economy. Alternatively, perhaps the demons simply liked death and destruction and were violently expressing frustration at being cast out of the man by maliciously killing the pigs. Both of these explanations assume that the demons intentionally drove the pigs into the sea. Since demons, however, do not seem to like being without a host, Matthew 12:43 through 45, some Christians think that they were not intending to destroy the herd immediately. In this view, Jesus was judging the demons, and although he allowed them into the pigs, either the pigs preferred to drown themselves rather than be possessed by demons, or Jesus himself drowned the pigs as judgment upon the demons. While Jesus did curse the fig tree, Mark 11:12 through 25, there are no other recorded miracles of Jesus that are destructive. Therefore, it seems unlikely that Jesus drove the pigs into the sea. Whether Jesus allowed the demons to drown the pigs or judged them after allowing them into the herd, we should address Jesus' motivation. Why would he allow the pigs to die? Several ideas have been proposed. First, the death of the herd dramatically revealed what Jesus was dealing with. It is one thing to say Jesus cast many demons out of a man. It is another to see a herd of 2,000 pigs wildly trampled down a cliff and drown. It highlighted how many demons there were and how great Jesus' power is. Second, upon seeing the pigs drown, those tending the pigs went back to town and reported all that had happened. 5:14 through 16. That caused Jesus' attentions to be more widely known in a way that might not have happened if Jesus had simply cast the demons out. Third, pigs were unclean for Jews. Although it was a Gentile region, some wonder whether they were Jews who helped raise these pigs or ate them. By removing this potential source of defilement, Jesus could have been merciful in preventing some Jews from sinning. Although we do not know with certainty why Jesus allowed the demons to enter the pigs, we clearly see that one man was worth more than thousands of pigs. Furthermore, this miracle brought tremendous attention to Jesus' power and his compassion on the man who had been demon possessed. The fallout. Verse 14. And they that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was that was done. Verse 15. And they come to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion sitting and clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Verse 16. And they that saw it told them how it befell to him that was possessed with the devil, and also concerning the swine. Verse 17. And they began to pray him to depart out of their coast. Verse 18. And when he was come into the ship, he that had been possessed with the devil prayed him that he might be with him. Verse 19. Howbeit Jesus suffered him not, but saith unto him, Go home to thy friends, and tell them how great things the Lord have done for thee, and have had compassion on thee. Verse 20. And he departed and began to publish in Decapolis, and began to publish in Decapolis how great things Jesus had done for him, and all the men marveled. The response of the people, Mark 5:14 through 17. The people were frightened when they saw the man in his right mind. Verse 15. This man had been uncontrollable and terrifying, but he sat meekly at Jesus' feet. Clearly, Jesus had far greater power than the legion of demons who had previously made this man impossible to overcome. It was not recorded that any people were glad he had recovered. Rather, they were simply terrified of Jesus. Perhaps the people valued money rather than the man's being healed, and the loss of 2,000 pigs was a huge blow. However, Luke gave a different motivation for the people asking Jesus to leave, for they were seized with great fear. Luke 8:36 through 37. This is likely comparable to the great fear the disciples had after Jesus calmed the storm in Mark 4. They were in awe and terror of Jesus and his unrivaled power. Rather than asking Jesus to do further miracles, they asked him to leave, and he obliged. It is the same in our lives. Tragically, if we ask Jesus to leave us alone, he will often do so. The response of the man and of Jesus. Mark 5:18 through 20. Jesus granted the request of the demons to send them into the pigs. He granted the request of the people to leave. Surprisingly, the only request he did not grant was that of the man to follow him. Instead, he told the man to proclaim what the Lord had done for him. In response, the man obeyed and proclaimed what Jesus had done for him. It is clear that what Jesus does and what the Lord does are inseparable. Taken together with the fact that Jesus calmed the sea, something only God can do, and drove out a legion of demons, Mark was making it increasingly clear that Jesus is the Lord. Mark began his gospel by calling Jesus the Son of God, 1:1. And he continued to pile up evidence that supported claims. Jesus does what the Lord alone can do. The man went throughout the Decapolis declaring what Jesus had done, and we see that this man was probably a Gentile, given his home was in Gentile territory. His testimony caused everyone to marvel, and when Jesus later returned, a crowd was ready to bring people to him, 7:31 through 37. This man was an effective witness who prepared the area for when Jesus returned. A man who had once been considered a lost cause proved an effective witness for Christ. If there are people you consider hopeless, do not give up. God has plans for them. After crossing the sea during a furious storm and healing the man with unclean spirits, Jesus got back into the boat and went to the other side, 5:21. Jesus crossed the sea and passed through a storm to teach the disciples about who he is and to reach this man. Jesus cares deeply about individuals, not just crowds. Questions. 1. Do the gospel writers contradict each other on where this story took place? 2. What is the difference between unclean spirits and devils? 3. Why could the man not be restrained previously? 4. What was unusual about Jesus casting out these demons? 5. Do we know how many demons this man had? 6. What 3 things did the demons immediately know about Jesus when they met him? 7. Why might the demons have driven the pigs into the sea? 8. Why might Jesus have allowed the demons to drive the pigs into the sea? 9. Why did the people ask Jesus to leave according to Luke? 10. How effective of a witness was the demon-possessed man? This concludes the Sunday School lesson for Sunday, November 23rd, 2025. Thank you for listening. Please remember to click the subscribe tab. God bless.